Hi guys! Today I would like to show you how to make a realistic looking three-dimensional chipping effect on your scale models. I'll be showing the methods of the silver priming chipping technique on this Star Wars Corporate Alliance Droid-tank by AMT. The first step of this technique is to prime the parts. Priming will give you a fine smooth surface which you can sand if required, plus it will give a nice adhesion for all the coming paint work. For the primer I'm usually using these cans like the Tamiya surface primer or the surface primer by model painters. Anyone will do for this method. You can actually go two ways. The first one is to prime the parts in silver already. Then the next step is actually not required. Or as I do, first prime the parts in standard priming gray and then use some silver paints and an airbrush just to cover the parts with a layer of silver. Actually, it's not required to use silver paint. You see, it depends on which color do you use for your chips. It can be either black or white or any other color. You just need to know that the color you choose for a priming coat will be the color of your chips. Now the goal is to have all the parts covered with silver. One more thing, guys, you actually don't have to cover the whole parts with the silver layer. You only need to apply it to the points where you intend to add the chipping effect to. Once all the parts are covered with a layer of silver, you can proceed to the next step, airbrushing all the parts with a layer of bleach future finish. For applying the future I'll be using my airbrush as well. I usually don't thin the future when using it with an airbrush. However, if you don't want to thin the future, I recommend you to apply it only with a very thin coats to avoid some nasty leaks on the parts. Plus to that, please don't forget to use a respirator mask, due to the fact that liquors, even those that can be thinned with water, are quite hazardous to your health. When all the parts are shiny with the new coat of future, just put them aside and let them cure for at least half a day, guys. After that, you can proceed with further painting. I will return to you once all my parts are dry. Alright guys, the time's moving fast and the sun always shines on TV. So here is my Corporate Alliance tank, already fully painted and ready for the actual chipping. One of the coolest things about this method is that when it comes to painting the kit, you can do it just like any other normal model, except that only one thing, you have to use precisely acrylic paints. Any paints will do, any required number of layers. You can paint it anyhow you'd like. For example, here on this model I've used a variety of paints. It was actually the first layer of Tamiya flat black for pre-shading and creating the first layer of visible priming. I think I'll have to explain what it is a bit later. The next layer was the bluish gray by Zvezda. Then I've used a great mix of various model color Vallejo or Vallejo paints, different colors, because looking at the studio pictures of this model of the CGI version used for the filming, it's actually very hard to tell what is the exact color of it, so I've used about 6 different layers of various mix of different earth tones, greenish brown, flesh tone, and all the others. I think I'll include the pictures of the complete paint job of this model on Scale Model Edit, and there you'll see that under the daylight the hull is a variation of lots of different brownish tones. Finally, I've used the acrylic Revel aqua color for the medium gray to create some so to say grayish post shading. And so here we go, now we can complete with the chipping. Now about the what I called visible priming. Primers are used not only in models to create a good adhesion layer for the incoming paint job, but also all the actual vehicles, as you might well know, are primed before the paint coming on, well, to protect the metallic layer from corrosion, to make also, like in the scale modeling, a better adhesion of paints. So primer is a quite required thing. When the paint on the actual vehicle is chipped off, you always can see a very thin border around the chip, the border of the color different from the bare metal underneath it. It's actually the primer itself. And so for this vehicle I've added a first layer of black paint to create that effect of a dark black primer underneath the paint. So when I'll be chipping the paint, the first visible layer appearing underneath will be the black, and then the bare metallic color, which will add a very realistic, the three-dimensional effect we're intended to achieve. So how is it going? The procedure is extremely easy. You take some water, you take a toothpick, and you dip the end of the toothpick into the water. It's hard to tell at once how much water will be enough, so I do sometimes put several drops of water, smash them into the surface to make the paint softer. After that, after the water soaks into the surface, you just go ahead and start scratching the paint. Okay, I'm not sure it's visible. Yep. Don't forget to add more water while the scratching procedure is going. Creating realistic shapes of chipping takes some time, but it's pretty much easy to get used to it. The only thing you always have to remember is to avoid similar forms of the chips you are creating. They all should be different in shapes and look different. Only by then you'll achieve a realistic looking chipping effect on the model. One other thing, don't go too much with the chipping, because here the less is the better. If you think that the number of the chips is too little, you can also always add some, but getting rid of a too much number of them would be a much bigger problem. This part of the technique, the actual chipping, is a bit time consuming. However, take your time and you will achieve an excellent looking three-dimensional chipping effect on the surface of your model. However, you might notice that the chips made might look a little bit too much standing out on the model's surface. To avoid that, I recommend using the fading technique, various filters and other different painting methods to make the surface of your model look more united with the chips. I am going to show you the ways of standing the chips made lower in my second part of the chipping technique video.